J5LOVER, your #1 Jackson 5 and Michael Jackson fan, and today I wanted to ask you the question, did you know? This is a question I pose in a series of videos talking about lesser known facts of the Jackson 5, the Jacksons, and Michael Jackson. This is video number 4, and I will post the previous 3 videos in my description box, the link to those if you haven't seen those yet. But before we get started with Did You Know, let's talk about this day in Michael Jackson history. Well, this day in Michael Jackson history, February 28, 1984, Michael Jackson goes to the Shrine Auditorium to attend the 26th annual Grammys with Brooke Shields and Emmanuel Lewis. And it is such a victorious night for him because he goes on to win 8 consecutive Grammys that night in such categories as Best Children's Recording, Best Rock Male Vocalist, Best Pop Male Vocalist, Best R&B Male Vocalist, Album of the Year. Just take a look at this clip.
I love all the girls in the balcony. Again, thank you, my mother and father. Thank you, Epic Records Promotion Department, Walter Yetnikoff. Thank the disc jockeys for playing the records. Thanks to the public. I love you all. Thank you.
I also want to thank God and the girls in the balcony. Wait, what? Anyway, yes, what a victorious night for Michael. Such an amazing time that went down in history as far as the Grammys are concerned. Okay, let's talk about Did You Know? First, an update from my previous video, Did You Know number 3. I found out in the June 14th, 1974 issue of Jet magazine that Tito Jackson and Johnny Jackson were no part of the equipment that had gotten stolen around the San Fernando Valley area back in 1973. It so happens that they were arrested on April 17th and they were let go on bail. Actually, a man, 24 years old, Sanders Bracey, and a 17-year-old girl had a pass key to 50 apartments in a building in the San Fernando Valley area, and they were stealing equipment and stuff like that from different people's apartments, record equipment, all kinds of electronics. And unfortunately, Tito and Johnny acquired some of these electronics from them, probably off the street or something, paid for it, and they were in question as to whether they had stolen these things. And of course, they were found innocent and vindicated June 13th of that year. All right, did you know, number 1, that Jackie and Tito had missing teeth during the first photo shoot that the Jackson 5 took with Motown? If you look through some of those shots where like Jackie and Tito were smiling, they each have like a tooth missing in the front, which is like so crazy. Well, apparently they had been in a fight previously, shortly before that photo session had happened. And so they came with one tooth missing. And so in the final shot that you see of the Jackson 5 on their album cover, they're smiling without their mouths open. They're, you know, more like that. The album was released December of 1969, but it's also interesting to see that when the Jackson 5 made their first appearance in October of 1969 on the Hollywood Palace, and then of course in December on the Ed Sullivan Show, their teeth are perfectly fine again. They obviously, Motown got them a dentist appointment and fixed their teeth. I believe the photo session took place in August of 1969. So we finally, like I said, it didn't take long for Motown to fix the problem, but it's just interesting to see them with missing teeth. Motown definitely had work on their hands polishing the Jackson 5 from the very start. Did you know, number 2, that Joe Jackson actually had his own record company in 1974? Yes, the record company was called Ivory Tower International, and he had a group called MDLT Willis under that name, standing for Maxine, Diane, Laverne, and Tina, who were all sisters from Ohio, Ashtabula, Ohio, and they were found by Joe Jackson at a like skating event in 1973 as like backup singers, and he decided to produce them, which was really cool. And one of their biggest songs was written by the Jackson 5 themselves, called "What's Your Game?" Take a look.
I just can't keep my eyes off of you.
I love that song. I think the Jackson 5 did a good job, and that was kind of like pre-Epic Records period before they like proved themselves as being good songwriters. Too bad Motown unfortunately didn't get a piece of the Jackson 5 writing team. And MDLT Willis went on to tour as an opening act for the Jackson 5. That was also really amazing. Of course, Ivory Tower International became a division of Epic Records later on, where Joe produced his son Randy Jackson, and he produced the single Can I Be Sure in 1978. Unfortunately, Ivory Tower International became defunct by the 1980s. Did you know, number 3, that Jermaine Jackson was accused of having fake hair? Yes, actually, Jermaine Jackson had that big, luscious afro back in the 70s. And in 1974, he started to perm it, and it got to be like poofy, and it had this sort of fluffy, almost Barry White style look. And people were accusing him of wearing a wig. Well, in an issue of Jet magazine, August 8th, 1974, Jermaine talked about how he was so tired of hearing people say that his hair was fake or that he was wearing a wig. He said, his wife washed his hair, conditioned his hair, and put a permanent in his hair, and that's why people, I guess, thought it was fake because of the permanent. And he still loved and embraced his natural hair. But that was all his hair, and he just got tired of people yanking on it and doing weird stuff at concerts and in person, I guess, and in a flood of fans and people asking the questions. So no, Jermaine did not have fake hair. His hair was all real, and it was big and it was beautiful. Did you know, number 4, that Jackie Jackson actually went out with Red Fox's daughter, Deborah Fox? Yes, from 1971 to 1973, Deborah Fox and Jackie Jackson were somewhat of an item. There were rumors of an engagement, and they were steady for 2 long years. But unfortunately, in 1973, they broke up because Jackie was seeing Enid Spann. And she was actually a friend of Deborah's and also a friend of Hazel Gordy. But once Jackie and Enid got together, they called it quits. Deborah was an interesting person. Not only was she Red Fox's daughter, she was an aspiring actress and model. But once Jackie and Enid got together, they called it quits. And 2 years later, Jackie Jackson married Enid Spann in 1975. And ironically, that same year in 1975, Deborah married a businessman named Ralph Russell. And the rest is history. Did you know, number 5, about the Ripples and the Waves? Yes, the Ripples and the Waves were a group that hailed from Gary, Indiana in 1971. And they also, just like the Jackson 5, were under the label Steeltown. And Gordon Keith also produced them. And in 1971, they came out with the record called Can I Carry Your School Books? And it says on the record label, The Ripples and Waves plus Michael, which led many listeners to think that this record rather was the Jackson 5 or included Michael Jackson of the Jackson 5. Just take a listen and see what you think.
Hey girl, let me dance, see I like the way that you do. Come on, let me walk along, so I can protect you from all that's wrong.
I personally think that the record sounds like a Jackson 5, or really just Michael Jackson, from 1969. And this record came out in 71. By 1971, Michael Jackson's voice had matured greatly from his sound in 1969. So I can tell the difference in the vocals. But not only that, I don't think that the lead tenor in this group is as strong as Michael Jackson. Anyway, for years it was thought that Michael Jackson had sang on this record, or that it was the Jackson 5 under a pseudonym. And interestingly enough, a lot of people from Gary at the time loved the Ripples and the Waves. Some even thought that they were better than the Jackson 5. But me personally, I think they do sound good, and they definitely sound like the times, the early 70s. But I don't think that they sound better than the Jackson 5 or as polished. And so I find that that was such a misleading thing to do, to write plus Michael. I think that was really for sales. And I can only imagine what they must have sounded like playing on the radio station at the time in Gary, Indiana. But the lead singer, the lead tenor on that record, is actually a young boy named Ronald Bills. So the members of the group are Warren Rocker, Philip Mack, L.V. Woodard, Larry Holmes, Lawrence Clark, and Ronald Bills, who of course is the lead tenor. So the rumor that the Ripples and Waves were the Jackson 5, or that the Jackson 5 sung on the Ripples and Waves album, is untrue. And I think the record was just written to probably get the boys an immediate hit and get them airplay and attention, which I feel like only worked briefly until people saw them live, of course, and realized, oh, this isn't the Jackson 5 or any form of the Jackson 5. But, of course, unfortunately, in the end, the Ripples and Waves kind of go down in history as kind of only just being a local band in Gary, Indiana. They didn't have much success outside of Gary, Indiana, and of course became defunct sometime in the 1970s. Thank you guys so much for watching my video today. Did you know? If you liked today's video, please click that like button and that bell icon so that you know every time I put out a new video. And, leave a comment for me in the comments section and tell me some of your thoughts on the 5 Did You Knows that we discussed today, or any information extra that you might be aware of, or maybe a suggestion for my next video of Did You Know. Also, you can follow me right here on Instagram. Thank you guys once again so much for watching my video, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!